Hello, everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcano Summary for December 19th, 2024. This past week, the earthquakes on Kīlauea cycled back up, and in the last couple of days have decreased as well. But this follows a previous week of quiet that followed a previous ramp up in earthquakes. So we're seeing this pulsing effect of magma within Kīlauea filling and then pressurizing areas underground, leading to these earthquakes. The thing that's been a little different about the earthquakes this past week has been the location, has been contained mostly within the summit, and in particular the southern part of the summit, Kīlauea here. In the last few weeks, we've seen earthquakes ramp up. They've also ramped up near the recent eruption site at Nāpau crater, right around in here, or perhaps a little bit further west between Makapui and Nāpau, right in there. We've not seen any activity at Pu'o'o or further down rift, so the activity is fully contained within the national park here. But this past week, it seems to have pinched off somewhere as some likely temporary adjustment in the magma pathways has focused activity all in the summit region, as you can see here. You do see some south flank activity in response as it continues to move seaward in response to the filling and stretching of the volcano. And that's essentially what the volcano is doing now. It's stretching to accommodate all these extra pressure from the magma building underground. So we'll have to wait to see if this leads to further adjustments or potentially intrusions or eruptions in the future. But for now, it seems to have found a way to adjust and quiet its pressure underground. If we look at the tilt on the volcano, we see this reflected. We have two lines here. This blue one is for the summit. The green is for Pu'o'o. So you see the summit has had some variations. The overall past month of tilt gain has been significant, about 10 microradians or so, where rift zone has been steadily decreasing that time. And USGS has reported that while the earthquakes have ramped up, has been coincident with this increase in tilt as well. So we'll start down at the rift to just show you how this pattern has changed. This is a Pu'o'o tilt meter, which the main component, the blue one towards the rift zone, has been steadily downhill, or deflating, I should say. Whereas the component that faces to the west, we've seen it inflate in response to filling of the Nāpau Makapui reservoir recently. However, that was stabilized previous week, and this past week is actually deflating. So we see the opposite effect in that recent eruption site. Further up rift at the escape road tilt meter at the East Rift connector, Upper East Rift, we have seen this component tracking intrusion of magma into that nearby reservoir as well. So it has also been inflating. It's one of the few stations in this rift area still inflating for part of this past week, but you can see it's equilibrated in the last few days here as well. Closest to the summit, we have the Sandhill tilt meter. And you can see that there's been a massive scale of tilt gain. And we're talking about 35 microradians or so over the last month. Although within the last week, similarly to the Upper East Rift, we had a stable period followed by some inflation and then re-equilibration in the last couple of days here. So it was during this inflation period we saw the increase in earthquakes, but things seem to have quieted down. Longer term, this is the distance north and south across the Caldera of Kīlauea. And so we can see an extension of the Caldera with an increase of the slope here, meaning that the sides are getting further apart faster before this quiet down in this most recent couple of dots here on the graph. On the rift zone at Pu'o'o on the Middle East Rift, we see that there was earlier in a year an effect from the intrusion that reached near that eruption site to establish that new reservoir, reconnect it to the magma system. And since then, we've had some variations, but not much real gain in distance, despite a lot of variation in the meantime. So that's Kīlauea, a lot of adjustments happening and pulsing of the magma coming into it. On Maunaulu, this is the whole last month of earthquakes. You see a background pattern very randomly dispersed across the whole map here. So looking at the whole year, you see a little more, but still very dispersed activity across the entire summit region of Maunaulu there. Because the real story is that in comparison to the pre-2022 eruption, the buildup back from 2020, shown on the graph of the last 5 years, is still quite a bit higher than what we're experiencing now. So we're still in this post-eruption phase, recharging the volcano as magma comes into it, as the volcano has steadily been tracking upwards, sometimes a little faster and sometimes a little slower, but refilling over the whole last year here in the predicted pattern. And that's our Hawaiian volcano summary for this week.